This is Chapter 1, Stage 2, Drawing with Basic Shapes. You can use a lot of different tools to create complex Illustrator artwork. We're going to be working on this project to let you experiment with some of these different options. As you complete the other projects in the book, you're going to get into more complex drawing techniques and using other tools. Basic shapes like rectangles can be used for the basis for a variety of different drawings. And in the next few exercises, we're going to create and transform basic rectangles. We'll create the clapboard image first. As we design in this exercise, we're going to show you a variety of ways that you can do basic drawing tasks. And as you work with the program more, you're going to develop your own preferences for the techniques that work best for you, for how you prefer to work. We're going to be working in the icons layer, so make sure that the others are locked and the icons layer is selected. We're going to zoom in on the clipboard drawing, and then we're going to use the rectangle tool to create this shape for the clipboard. We're going to use the rectangle tool then to create most of this drawing. In the Tools panel, make sure that you then select the default fill and stroke. But if we have a white inside and we're drawing over the top of this, we're not going to be able to see anything. So right here we're going to choose the none so that the fill becomes nothing and we just have a white outline. It's a 1-point stroke and we'll be fine for drawing what we're doing. We're going to click to drag to create the shape of the bottom of the clapboard. We're drawing the solid area. We're not including the striped white part. So we're going to come in here. I'm going to start from this corner because I can see it clearly, and I'm going to drag down and around. Yes, we have rounded areas on here, but remember we can change that, and we'll do that shortly. So we've got our basic shape drawn. And now we're going to use the Properties panel, or you can bring up the Transform panel to work off of it, but we can use the Transform with everything that's available for us here. Make sure that we have a slash mark going through for the height and width. We don't want those to be constrained. We want to be able to work with those, and we're going to change our X value so that it is a perfect 4 inches. And the height is going to be 2.5. Now I actually got that correct. And make sure that you are using the upper left corner for your reference point. Now clicking the selection tool, we're going to make that the active tool of choice, and we're going to copy this. So if you go up to Edit, Copy, and then Edit, Paste in Front. So if you look at the layers, what we have now, if you go into icons, you can see you have 2 rectangles, one that you just created, and the upper one is the one that's selected. We can tell that because of the little square that is active right next to it. And there isn't one on the other one. On this particular rectangle, we're going to choose the bottom left corner for our reference point. And we're going to move this. So we want to change the position, so after our current Y value, we're going to subtract 2.5. And that moved that right above it. After the current height value, we can use changes mathematically. We don't just have to type numbers in. We're going to, again, put an insertion point after the current height value, and we're going to divide it by 4. So type in a /4 and enter, and that's going to create the box that our diagonals are going to go into. With that still selected, we're going to again copy, edit, copy, and edit, paste in front. Put an insertion point after the current width value, which is currently 4 inches, and we're going to divide that by 8. and press enter. And we now have a small rectangle inside. Next, we're going to work on scaling a basic shape. We're going to pick up our selection tool and we're going to select that bottom first rectangle again. And we're going to again copy this and paste it in front. Then we're going to pick up the scale tool. It looks like two little rectangles with an arrow on it. We're going to click the bottom right corner of our shape and hold down the mouse button and drag up to scale this smaller. As you drag, our cursor feedback is going to give us the dimensions. So we're going to 83, right now I'm showing 83 by 64%, and what I'm looking for is about an 80% for the width and approximately 70% for the height. I can adjust this actually later. So I'm pretty close right there. With the scale tool still active, click without dragging anywhere on the top edge of this shape, because that's going to do is that's going to reset where we're dragging from. So you are actually setting a corner, an anchor point. And we're going to pick up the lower right corner and we want to drag that up to about another 55% of the house height, and you can see how that's changing and setting that. And we can drag out. I'm still not satisfied exactly with what I have, so again I'm going to click and set my anchor point perfectly over here, and then I'm going to drag from this corner and make that match that white box a little bit better. Then I'm going to hold down my control key and I'm going to temporarily change to my selection tool, click off to the side, and that's going to deselect everything. Next, we're going to use the shear tool to take and change this rectangle into a diagonal line. So underneath your scale tool, you're going to hold down your mouse button and find the shear tool. Once you have that, temporarily access the selection tool by holding down your control key. Click to select the rectangle. Make sure that you are clicking on the stroke because it does not have a fill, and then release the control key. You're going to click on the bottom left corner of this shape so that you're going to set your anchor point there, and then select the top right corner and drag to the side so that you match the shape. And once you have sheared that, you can release your mouse button and then select your selection tool. Double click the selection tool, which is going to open up the move. Now what we want to do on this is have preview selected. We're going to change the position on here so that the horizontal is 1 inch. Tab over, and the vertical, we don't want to move that at all, and our distance is going to be 1 inch, and say copy. Now you can see you have your original rectangle and a duplicate of that placed again. We did that once with great success, so we're going to go to another way of moving this and duplicating. We're going to go to Object and select Transform and select Transform again. That puts in a third copy, Object, Transform, Transform again to get our fourth copy. Now if you're not exactly thrilled with the placement of each one of these, you can make changes to these real easily. I can just take this with my selection tool and I can pop this over by using my arrow key and move this over a little notch there so that it matches it a little bit closer. Once you're happy with the placement on this, you can save your file. Next, we're going to copy this and do a reflect and rotate on the shapes. So we still have our selection tool. We are going to click and drag to create a selection marquee that gets the top edge of all the shapes. Now remember, when you're using the selection tool, you don't have to drag down to select the entire part. As long as you are selecting some of the drawing, you're going to select the whole piece using the selection tool. If we did the same thing with the direct selection tool, it wouldn't work the same, but this works just fine. We have all of those selected. We're going to group this, so go to Object, Group, and now this is all one unit. With that still selected, and by the way, let's take a look at layers, and you're going to see now that all of these things have become part of a group. It's kind of fun to watch this sometimes. Under the Rotate tool, we're going to find the Reflect tool. So pick that up, and then double click on that to open the dialog box. And make sure again that you have Preview selected. We're going to select to horizontally copy this, and now we have a copy made. Temporarily access your selection tool, hold down your Control key, and drag straight up and place that right above, oops, there we go. Place that right above the other drawing. Then underneath the Reflection tool, we're going to go back and get that Rotate tool again. We're going to click on the lower left corner to set our anchor point. Then we can come back over and grab this and rotate it up to make it match the drawing. Hold down your Control key again, click off to the side to deselect. Next, we're going to pick up our Direct Selection tool. That's the Group Select. Hold down and get the Direct Selection tool, and we're going to select the background boxes here. Now hold down your Shift key and click on the second rectangle so that both of those are selected. And now we're going to change the fill color of those to white. You have a variety of methods that you can do with this. So you can use the Property panel and change it here. You can change it over here by using the default fill and stroke. It's up to you which method you would like to use to fill. And then again click to the side to deselect. So now we have the rectangles are filled with white, and you can see the skewed rectangles much more easily. Again, using the Direct Selection tool, click inside the rotated white filled shape and drag. You can see that then that it is filled. We're just going to drag this out of the way so you can see what's going on. Now undo this, and we're going to click away to deselect everything, and I'm going to choose the Lasso tool in the toolbox, and we're going to kind of drag a selection that touches the four sheared shapes in the rotated group. If we hold down our Shift key, we can pick up those as in the lower section as well. Now that those are selected, and you can see there is no fill in those, we're going to click the Swap Fill and Stroke button at the bottom of the Tools panel. Choose the Selection tool, and then click to select the inner rectangle in the lower half of the artwork. Choose the Selection tool, and then click to select the inner rectangle in the lower half of the artwork. Remember, we have to select it through using the stroke. With any method you would like, change the fill color to white, and then select the outer rectangle and change the fill to black. Then go in to View and show your corner widgets.